So I was looking up abortions for mental health reasons because in the last video I talked about the woman in Australia who had the abortion because she was threatening to commit suicide, and I was like, there have got to be actual good reasons, like for mental health kinds of abortions. Like, what would those be? What would those look like? And so I started looking them up, and I saw some things that looked pretty scary, and I'd like to maybe find some examples and get a better idea of what that looks like. I keep trying to look at individual cases because I think it really helps. It puts a face on it. Like, I think a lot of people don't discuss these very bizarre and unusual kinds of cases when they debate abortion because for them it's hypothetical. It's a hypothetical, oh, well, what if the baby is endangering the life of the mother? And a lot of people have a very easy time looking and say, well, when does that ever happen? And it's like, well, it happens. It's very rare, but it happens. And this is what it looks like when it happens. So, I mean, I'm trying to look at it on a case-by-case kind of basis to get a good example of what it looks like when some of these things occur. And there are a lot of things that can go wrong, so there's a lot of material to go over. But the first thing I found was that this woman in Australia who was threatening to kill herself, first of all, 5 doctors looked at her, one of them being a psychiatrist, looked at her and said, yeah, she's going to kill herself. Well, the first thing I'm reading up on is, yeah, you know, she was showing all the classical signs of somebody who was actually going to kill herself because she was pregnant and couldn't get an abortion. I guess they've studied that, which is weird. I guess they've actually done, you know, taken the effort and studied that sort of thing, which is news to me. It always seemed like one of those things that they're like, well, yeah, for the health of the mother and also for the mental health of the mother. And I mean, if you listen to pro-lifers, like a lot of pro-life arguments are, they weasel in that mental health of the mother thing just to kind of, you know, leave a back door open so that women who just really, really, really want an abortion can just slide right in and be like, well, I'm depressed. I need it because I'm depressed. In fact, Vice, I think it was, did a video on YouTube about, you know, it was a woman who was trying to get an abortion under New York's new laws, and she called up an abortion clinic and she was like, yeah, I feel kind of depressed and I want an abortion. And they told her they couldn't help her, and they referred her to a place in, I think, New Mexico. And she was like, well, you know, she called the place in New Mexico. They said, yeah, come on in. And she was like, well, I got an appointment for a consultation for an abortion just on the claim that I'm mildly depressed. What she didn't know is I've actually seen pictures of video footage actually of this clinic in New Mexico that she's talking about. There are only 4 different places in the United States, 4 different providers in the United States who will give late term abortions. And what would have happened is she would have gone all the way out to New Mexico. She would have spoken probably to a nurse and eventually to the doctor, and they would have done a pre-procedural consultation in which she would have given them her reasons that she wanted this procedure. Frequently at that stage, I mean, if you want to know what that looks like, there's a documentary called After Tiller. Watch it. It's very informative. If you're pro-life, you're going to find it very annoying because it doesn't address the pro-life side of the argument at all. It's just one sliver of the gigantic scope of the abortion issue. And it's just talking about those 4 doctors and how they operate in their clinics, and it interviews them and, you know, takes a look at some of the kinds of patients that they deal with who are more late term. And you're not going to get the pro-life side of the argument from that. It's just that one little sliver, but it's a very informative sliver. It's a very interesting sliver. You know, it gives you a glimpse into a side of the argument you might not have seen before. So I would recommend that. But, you know, this lady at Vice, she's like, she noted 2 different things. Number one, she noted that she could get into this clinic, you know, on something so mild as a claim of depression or feeling a little depressed. What she doesn't realize is that, you know, for the women who are desperate enough to fly all the way from New York to New Mexico, you know, it's not just a little depressed at that point. It's usually a pretty big deal. And, you know, they might not say that over the phone, but when they talk with the doctor, they do say it. And if they can't put it into words, usually the doctor says, "I'm sorry, I can't help you." The second thing she noticed was that the cost was exorbitantly high. And yes, the cost is exorbitantly high. Part of the reason is what was it called? Insurance. The insurance for the doctors is also exorbitantly high. I mean, these are people who are performing procedures behind multiple layers of bulletproof glass because people try to kill them and sometimes succeed in killing them. And I think that's horrific because usually, like a lot of the times that they have patients, and I won't say, actually usually isn't fair. I think one of the doctors said that about 1/5 of all her patients are for terminal medical problems, fetal anomaly, where the baby is in really bad shape, something's gone horribly medically wrong with the pregnancy, and the parents have come to her because it's too late to receive care where they live. In cases like that, having experienced one firsthand, anybody who can help you is, you know, you can't find the words to express how grateful you are if somebody can help you in a situation like that. And it means a lot. But going back, trying not to get into a tangent, going back to, you know, just this case in Australia and a lot of other cases that I've seen, just looking at all these individual cases. What do you do in situations like this? Like, I have a problem with people, like a lot of women, a lot of very pro-choice people are like, well, it's a woman's right to have an abortion. And I don't like talking about things in the sense of, oh, it's my right to have this, it's my right to have that. I have a right to free healthcare. I have a right to, you know, name it, somebody's claimed it. I think that's not a good way to look at this. I don't think people should look at abortion as a right. And I find it kind of annoying when women do look at abortion as a right. Like, this is a service that some people are willing to provide, and not many people at that. And so when you say it's your right to be able to get it, I experienced this firsthand as well. Good luck finding someone who will give it to you. Good luck. It's harder and harder to find, and people don't want to do it. And so, you know, saying it's a right is just, I don't agree with it. I don't think that's the right way to look at it. But on the flip side, in cases like the ones I've been talking about, cases where the baby's going to die, cases where the baby is endangering the life of another baby, cases where the baby is endangering the life of the mother, really, really messy medical situations. In these cases, what do you do? And I'm not trying to be sarcastic, and I'm not trying to be rhetorical. I really mean it. If you're very, very pro-life and you're one of those people who's always looked at it and said, abortions should never, ever happen under any circumstances, what do you do under these circumstances? What do you do? And I mean, I've had people, I've talked to people who are like, well, you should carry the baby to term and give birth to the baby and, you know, try again later for another baby, or, you know, maybe adopt a baby. And it's like, you're leaving a whole lot of steps out of that process there, bud. I was 17 weeks pregnant, 17 and a half weeks pregnant when I had the procedure. Right now, I would be 26 weeks pregnant. I would still have a whole hell of a lot of pregnancy to go before I would be done. I would be at this point in time, big belly, waiting for my baby to die. Because that's what I had left to me. I had that, just waiting for that to happen. Either I would miscarry, and at some point I would find out that I had miscarried. Maybe I would start cramping. Maybe I would go into some sort of preterm labor in my house while watching my very small and young and vulnerable children. You know, maybe that's what would have happened to me, or maybe I would have carried to term and given birth to him and watched him die. Those were my options. Like, you know, there were a few different ways that he could have died. Some of them were less horrible than others. Struggling for your life is not fun. I know what it feels like to struggle to stay alive. That's not something I would give to a baby, particularly not my baby. And so when people are like, oh, well, you know, you just carry to term and give birth, like it's nothing. Like, pregnancy is literally an easy bake oven. You shove the sperm in, you set the timer, 9 months later, the timer goes ding, and out pops the baby. It's not that simple. And I'm not saying that, like, a lot of women who are very, very, like, child-free and anti-child are like, pregnancy is like this horrible, horrible thing, and you're putting yourself at risk for all sorts of problems. And it's like, yeah, it can be not fun. Yeah, you can end up with, you know, an episiotomy, which sucks. You can end up with, you know, some tearing, which sucks. You can end up with a C-section, which sucks. It's not the end of the world. But you do all that with the end goal of having a baby in your arms when you're done. What if you're doing it all and you don't have that for an end goal? I can't imagine. I can't imagine going through with it like that. And some people do. And it depends very, very much. I sound like a broken record. It depends on what your personal beliefs as a parent about what life and death mean for your child. If you think that the most important thing is to give birth to your child and hold them and cuddle them and comfort them while they inevitably die, do that. That's important. That's what life is about for you and what you want to give in life to your child. If you look at your pregnancy, which is not yet halfway through, and say, I don't want to bring a baby into the world just so that he can experience death, you really ought to have the capacity to end that process as humanely as possible. That's not necessarily a right, but what else do you do in these circumstances? You know, you're a parent, you're a mom, you're looking at your child and you are saying, how do I give you the best possible death? Because death is coming. And the last thing you're gonna give a crap about is what some pro-lifer on the internet thinks is the best way that you should handle that situation. I guarantee you will not care. I've talked to 2 other women now, one of whom did everything that she could medically, you know, everything, all the things, all the invasive procedures, everything, all of it, and said, you know, people might look at me from the outside and judge me for putting a baby through all this stuff. And it's like, that's what was important to her, to give her baby every single chance, no matter what. Another woman put her baby on hospice, kept her baby comfortable, loved him, held him, made sure that he had as good of a sliver of life as he could before he passed on. She might look at it and say, well, some people might look at it from the outside and say, you know, I could have done more and maybe I should have done more, but, you know, this was the choice I made. I think that's great. I think both of those things are great. I think both of those women did the best that they could and the best that they believed in for their children. However, I did the best that I believed in for my child as well. So, you know, and I had kind of the easier situation in some way. I can't imagine a woman whose life is going to, well, actually I can, because I was there too. When your life is going to end if you don't have the procedure. You know, in my case, it was what do they call it? It's not tubal ligation. Anyway, yeah, I'll botch that word if I try to pronounce it. Anyway, I had my tube removed, and another woman, of course, that I talked about where she had to have an abortion. It's not a fun place to be. It's not a happy place to be at all when you have to make that choice. And in a case where one twin is slowly dying and endangering the life of the other twin, that I really can't imagine, and that would be really horrible. These aren't happy decisions. I don't know what else you can do under these circumstances. I don't know what better solution you can come forward with. You know, sometimes abortion is it. Sometimes abortion is the best option out of many, many horrible options. And in those cases, you know, is it a matter of my body, my choice, my rights, my freedoms? No, it's a matter of something has gone horribly, horribly wrong, and we have to fix it as best we can. You know, what do you do? What else do you do? If you're really, really pro-life and you find yourself in an impossible situation, what else can you do? And can you really hold it against other people for taking this route if it is better than some of the things that could be happening? Like, if you are trying to save a baby from a horrible and gruesome death, and some of these things that I've read about, some of these medical conditions, it is a horrible and gruesome death. And I haven't even begun to cover those. Like, I haven't even started on those. A horrible and gruesome death. Some people just want to save their kids. So, is it right? No, because people, you know, just because you want it doesn't mean you're going to be able to get it. And just because you need it doesn't mean you're going to be able to get it. And sometimes people need it and they can't get it. But is it the best solution to a horrible situation? You know, if you're really, really, really pro-life, please comment. Please let me know. Please tell me, because it sometimes seems to me that this is the best solution in some of these cases. And certainly the parents of these children think that this is the best solution. So, you know, what then? I will talk to you guys later.